All right, everybody. Welcome back. I hope everybody's back. So now we're going to get into the meat or the soy of the evening. So we're going to start the pitches here. I want to give everybody a rundown, and particularly presenters, if you guys could pay close attention. And as a reminder too, pay attention to your chat channels. If for some reason we need to contact you, then we're going to try to contact you through chat. So watch your chat. Pardon me. All right. So the very first thing we're going to talk about. Let me bring it up here. 1 second. I lost it. Okay, there we go. So the 5 companies are going to pitch now. I'm going to bring each one up individually. Each company will get 10 minutes to pitch. Followed by an engagement with their deal lead. Each team has a deal diligence lead that goes deep. That team goes deep, and the lead of that diligence team is going to present for 5 minutes some questions for the founder to answer. The order's in the top right corner next to the stage. If anybody wants to take a look, any founders, if you're not sure when you present, be sure to have a look there. And the timing on this will be pretty brutal. We really want to get, we want to be fair. Everybody gets 10 minutes. Every deal lead gets 5 minutes. And so we're going to enforce that pretty strongly. So when your time's up, I'm going to jump in. And so hopefully you guys won't make me do that. You'll see a timer across the top, a red, I think it goes red, yellow, green. We'll start the timer. And so you can see it counting down as you're going through your pitch, your presentation. And I'm going to ask everybody before it's time for you to go on, just a bit before, and I'll remind everybody, but raise your hand so that I can see you to bring you up on stage. And I just want also to let everybody know the teams that will be presenting tonight. There's some great companies here. You're going to meet the diligence leads. They've done some really great work. If you see something you like, tweet it out. We've got or Facebook. We've got a hashtag. I'm going to put this in the chat right now. There you go. So let the world know that this amazing thing's happening. All right. So we're going to bring up the first team. Michael Augustine, if you're ready, if you could raise your hand. Good. Thank you, Michael. And we're almost there. I'm going to set the timer. All right. So Michael from Curie, welcome to the stage. Let's see.
Can you see my window?
Oh, good. All right. Please. Okay, good. So your screen share looks great. Let me just confirm the timer is set and you are ready to go. Good luck.
Curie is building oil for the metaverse. We help e-commerce companies looking to scale AR using computer vision to build entire 3D product catalogs in weeks, not years, from photos already on the web. What do Nike, Gucci, Apple, and countless other brands have in common? They all understand that 3D is inevitable and that 3D models are going to be required to enable both e-commerce and the metaverse. The problem is that 3D is bottlenecked. It can take years to make thousands of high-quality 3D assets. It's expensive and time-consuming, needing an army of modelers. For example, we spoke to Walmart's supplier for CG, and they charged them 20 grand and took over 2 months just to produce one piece of furniture. Curie looks to bring the time to convert entire product catalogs from years to weeks, using computer vision to generate thousands of 3D models from 2D photo galleries already on the web. We blend self-improving deep learning with the realism of AAA video games. Curie innovates upon a stagnant industry with an API charging access to 3D for any product. Our customers reach profit sooner at pennies per view than paying millions up front. Here's an asset we generated for Realized Design. It's similar to SketchUp, but for mobile. We use machine learning to generate from 2D to 3D, and after cleanup and optimization, we manually assign materials and textures. When a shopper wants to view an asset in AR, we serve a 3D model with an API so that products can be seen true to size. Next up is a bottle that we've generated for Mosel, a Seattle local mezcal startup founded by Starbucks veterans. E-commerce companies are interested in AR because they know they'll lose billions when shoppers can't see their products true to size. For example, if a shopper isn't confident about a purchase, they'll abandon a cart or buy from a competitor that has a showroom, and that's called web rooming. Also, if they get the size wrong, then they'll make a return which contributes to the 40% that goes to environmental waste. To shoppers, if your products look flat, your sales might be flat. 3D immersion gives e-commerce firms double the amount of conversion, with contactless virtual showrooms to show products true to size. Today, Curie's asset generation pipeline averages about 2 hours an asset, which can be run in parallel. 2D to 3D takes seconds, but the rest of the process still needs manual supervision. With investment, we look to reduce this process to 2 seconds by fully automating it in 6 months. Curie uses a proprietary process called 3D Human in the Loop. Every finished asset is then used as training data to improve our ML model. Over time, this increases precision, increases our margins, and lowers our costs. Unlike 3D studios and photogrammetry houses, which require an expensive army of modelers and specialized equipment and can take a year or more to pay back, Curie is a solution that pays for itself in 2 months. Our advantage is that we use AI to trade manual costs for cloud costs. There are 2 components to our moat. First is technical momentum. We optimize for simplicity and speed, and our 8-month head start has allowed for a flywheel of ever-increasing improvements. Second, like all other cloud providers, our focus on API and our proprietary 3D dataset locks in customers and raises the cost of vendor switching. Curie is pre-revenue, but for the first 3 months, we've signed LOIs to generate 3D for more than 200,000 products, which, based on customer traffic, is estimated to produce $1 million in API calls. Last month, our prospects have grown 250%, many because our recent investor XRC. We're adding a portfolio company to our pipeline a week, and we've already closed 2 LOIs with these portfolio companies. Another notable prospect is Trimble, which makes SketchUp. And they're interested in using Curie to onboard more than 100,000 manufacturers who have photos, but don't have 3D models. And lastly, our first aggregator customer, Friendly, went live with a furniture rental model, and they're bullish on AR and excited to grow with Curie. Curie charges a metered service revenue model similar to AWS and Azure of $14 for every 1,000 product views. On average, furniture sites produce about 10 million product views per month, meaning that closing 7 customers in this space would generate about $1 million a month. Our beachhead is furniture because AR has high utility in that vertical. Furniture as a whole generates 1.7 billion visits per month. This would also translate to 2.3 billion a year with our revenue model. Furniture buying benefits the most from an immersive experience where you can see items true to size. And because furniture is highly redundant, it's easier for ML to create a digital twin. As we move from hard goods to all e-commerce, this would be a 10x increase to about 23 billion. Going from e-commerce traffic to the metaverse, this would be 100x. We plan to reach customers through 3 channels: top-to-top relationships, targeted LinkedIn ads, and in-person meetings and conferences. Our goal is to reproduce our traction with 10 similar companies in 18 months, giving us a run rate of 10 million. Our management team previously founded GameSalad, which was the first no-code game engine for iOS and Android, which we scaled up to over 3 million brands and creators, reaching over 100 million players per month. This was similar to the reach of Zynga, with only 2% of their staff. GameSalad was the first seed investment by Disney Steamboat and became the model for Disney Accelerator. Curie's founders have participated in multiple exits and have clocked decades in AI and 3D. We've even used ML to launch payloads into space. Our recent investor, XRC, has been instrumental in helping us streamline a reproducible sales process with high-quality mentorship. The VC firm paired us with the chair emeritus of the National Retail Federation, the largest e-commerce conference, and the former CTO of Amazon company Quidsi. The founding partner is on the board for Purple, and he has successfully closed pilots with past XRC companies. With the funds, we look to add to our sales support to reproduce our traction with 10 other customers, bringing our run rate to 10 million, and hire engineering support to bring the time that it takes to generate models from hours to seconds. When you can generate models in seconds, you can make tens of millions of models per year, giving you the ability to corner the entire 3D market. We also plan to integrate with high-traffic platforms such as TikTok, Snap, and Zoom, enabling Curie to reach billions. We feel that 3D will replace photos and showrooms as the most immersive and contactless way to shop. Just like there's a photo of everything, Curie sees the need to create 3D for every product. And that's Curie. We're simplifying the process to scale 3D and supply the metaverse using computer vision. Questions?
Great. Thank you very much, Michael. So now, Brian, will you raise your hand? Thank you. Come on up.
Are there recording the video?
Yeah. Can you? So, Michael, you'll need to stop sharing your screen. And Brian, do you have a screen to share?
I do. Yep. Let me just bring this up. And test my first time with remote here. How's that? Can you even see my screen?
Yeah, that looks great. Okay, I'll start the timer and get out of the way.
Okay, great. Well, you can see that little green line on top. That's super helpful. Great, thanks everybody. So first I want to thank everybody from the due diligence team. I was the team lead and I was joined by Carolyn Billings, Raja Rapaka, Colin Paul, Walter Chen, and Nisha Mohan. Thank you all very much for your help in doing due diligence on Curie. We just wrapped up last Friday and we're eager to be able to share some of the information here and really join Michael in talking about Curie. So I want to do two things. I want to really quickly talk about some questions that we explored during the due diligence process. I'll briefly hit on those. There's only a few of the many that we dug into, but we think they're very important. And then there's some discussion questions here to bring up and sort of co-answer or discuss with Michael for the audience. So first thing that was really important to us is what is the state of Curie's 3D asset generation pipeline? As Michael mentioned to you, there's really a bottleneck today in the generation of these really important 3D models for the oil for the metaverse that Turkey uses, and we came to understand that and really appreciate that. That bottleneck that exists in that it's expensive and takes time, exhaustive time to have good 3D asset models generated to be used to enable AR and VR. And so in the product demo and then in conversations with Curie's engineering team, we want to dig in to understand what the state is today, because we see it being really important for them to automate this to achieve some of those high efficiency, low cost outcomes that Michael just told us about. In the demo and the conversation, we've seen that currently it is down to 2 hours to generate a rough model, which is not the model that will be then handed over to the customer. It's not the final product. It then does need to be finished. So it's a semi-automated pipeline to date. and Curie is working on, has in their roadmap to bring it to a fully automated pipeline. That being said, with the semi-automated, right, it's 2 hours, and that, like, Michael can speak more authoritatively about that, is way shorter than what they're seeing from anybody else in the market or people that are doing it manually. So the process that stands today, 2-hour ML automation generation from 2D image to 3D model, and then there's a finisher person that has to do the finishing touches on that model to be able to the customer. Secondly, through the process due diligence, the team became really excited about this market opportunity, both for what the customers are expecting to the growth of e-commerce, and also younger customers, as evidenced by some research we did, some writers from Lorian and Thompson, are expecting to have AR experiences for their e-commerce. It's becoming an expected capability. Really, that plays into this demand for these 3D models. And then we wanted to look at what customer traction has been to date here. And as Michael mentioned, they have two, and I may use a different term needed, sort of design partner customers are working with right now. And those are non-revenue generating yet in Winter Moselle and Friendly. We spoke with both of them. They both spoke highly of their interactions with Curie. Both really appreciated the low upfront cost of having 3D models generated and then having the on-demand or transaction-based pricing model. And thought this was going to be key to their business. One was an online furniture as a service vendor, primarily going through e-commerce for their sales. And the second being a sort of a boutique mezcal producer who saw 3D models of their bottle where they had created a really unique experience for their prospective customers as being really important to help them do direct-to-consumer sales. With that, I know we're short on time here a little bit. I want to respect it. So there's some questions we want to bring up. Michael, when do you think Curie will be able to deliver from that product plan for the fully automated 3D model generation pipeline?
Okay, for those that might be hearing some background noise, the question was when Curie believes that they'll be able to deliver on their product plan to fully automate the 3D model generation pipeline. And so currently we feel that we can do that in 6 months. It takes roughly 2 hours total today to create the asset, and 80% of the work has been eliminated by machine learning. It takes a couple seconds to generate the mesh, but it takes hours for human in the loop to refine the model after it's been generated. With investment, we look to bring this down to 2 seconds by fully automating the process. We use a proprietary process called 3D human in the loop. Every finished asset is then used to retrain the model, giving us better precision and margins and lowering our costs over time. Oh, you're on mute.
All right, and that's the end of our time. Thanks, Michael. Good job. Brian, thank you for the great presentation. All right, we're going to move on to the next team.
All right, thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Good job, Michael. All right, so next up is Pet Hub. Presenting founder is Lorian Clemens and Jason Bauman. If you can both raise your hands so that we can get you guys in the queue for coming up on board. And Michael and Brian, if you guys could both turn your cameras off, that'd be great. Perfect. All right, good. So let me bring up Lorian. And Jason, I'll bring you up shortly. Let's see, Lorian, let's see, is your camera on? Oh, there we go. Oh, no, that's Jason.
There we go.
Ah, there she is. Ah, welcome. Good. Okay, so Jason, yep, good. All right, perfect. And the screen share looks good. I'm going to start the timer and get out of the way. Good luck.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Lorian Clemens. I am the co-founder and CEO of Pet Hub. Pet Hub is a data platform and subscription membership service for pet parents. Our mission is to keep every family's pets happy, safe, protected, and home for the rest of their lives. I want to tell you about Alicia. She's 23 years old and officially 1 year into her brand new career, but today is a really big day for her. You see, she is adopting Thor. Whoops, Thor. He is a 4-year-old Corgi Elk-Hound mix, and she is super excited to give him all of her love. But before she's even left the shelter, she's full of questions. Exercise, play, food, grooming, vet care, training, socialization, and what the heck is she supposed to do if Thor gets lost? Every pet parent, especially new pet parents like Alicia, have to slice and dice across multiple apps, products, and services to get the full picture of what their pet needs. And all she knows as she's leaving the shelter is that she's been given this really cool digital ID tag and told, this is Thor's pet license. Go register it at pethub.com. So Alicia creates Thor's profile. She enters multiple emergency contacts, links to his vaccinations and medications, his microchip, all on his dashboard, where she discovers something she really needs and wants. A personalized pet care guide about critical things that she can do to keep Thor safe and protected. You see, we built Pet Hub for pet parents like Alicia. We knew that by putting a pet's data at the center of our platform, we could build valuable applications to help pet parents manage many critical aspects of their pets' lives, like lost pet prevention, recovery of lost pets, safety, and much more. But our biggest challenge at first was, how are we going to get pet parents to want to join our site and then share their data with us so that when we can help them? So we began with e-commerce and direct-to-consumer in retailers, and we learned a lot of things. Most significantly, we learned how to use data to help lost pets get home very fast and keep them out of shelters. So after several years of proving that we were doing that better than anybody else in the industry, municipal shelters that had previously turned us away because we were just a startup now wanted to talk about building tag programs with us. So we pivoted. We adjusted our systems, we built our reputation in the industry and grew our sales pipeline, and now Pet Hub is the required pet license or rabies tags in hundreds of communities across the US, and we are on track to hit 1 million pets early next year. What this means is that Pet Hub has trusted authorities handing out thousands of our ID tags every week and encouraging pet parent data entry. So we have government agencies, animal shelters, and veterinarians distributing our tags. We've picked the lock on customer acquisition, and now we are poised to scale what's working and build and launch the rest of the Pet Hub vision. The first application we call Protect. It's built and it's already driving recurring revenue through optional premium subscriptions. And our lost pet recovery system will help pets get home very fast if they get lost. So now we're launching Share. This will make it easy and simple for folks like Alicia to connect with third-party apps, products, and services through our API integration. And we're building Nurture, which is all about personalized interactive content and curated recommendations so that pet parents like Alicia can keep their pets safe and protected. So because our platform is putting data at the center of everything, there really are endless applications for it. A pet license, it's going to connect with a huge safety circle of friends, family, local pet care providers, medical and vaccine records, and a wealth of lost pet recovery tools. A rabies tag provides instant access to training resources, routines, records for pet sitters, and it can connect to the apps that they use to communicate with their clients. A tag provided by an insurance company provides instant link to coverage and existing records that have emergency that can do a quick scan and get right to work. A local dog bar uses the tag as a membership tag, and it provides vaccine and training verification instantly so that you and your dog can just walk on in the bar. All of this is possible with the Pet Hub platform. So Pet Hub is also one of the very first touch points for many new and young pet parents. It's the fastest growing pet parent segment and exactly the audience that our partners want to engage. Our installed piece of Protect encourages the entry of data, and it's the initial engagement with the pet parent. Now our Share piece is going to allow for simple and easy data integrations with ancillary third-party apps and services. And Nurture is that personalized pet parent education and partner offerings. All of these are natural extensions to our core safety and protection services, things like pet insurance, training, enrichment, telehealth, And they all feed back into the proposition that we provide pet parents through our existing Protect subscription services. So they'll be driving growth in that all the time. So let's talk about how we're going to be building this out. As I mentioned, we have picked the lock on customer acquisition and building successful ID tag programs. So we are doubling down on market penetration to more than triple our footprint in the rabies and license tag space in the next 2 years. And our solid Protect base is also providing the focus for those API integrations that we're launching soon with pet insurance and with dog TV. We're also developing partnerships and integrations right now with telehealth, dog training, and other lost pet prevention apps that are going to be launching next year. So these relationships are about data integration and their lead referral opportunities. And then that nurture interface that we're building will deliver the opportunities so that pet parents will have a recurring space for engagement on our platform. And that will reinforce and drive our subscription revenue, as well as helping us build that market share even more rapidly. So that in future years, we'll be in a really great position to deeply integrate with even a wider range of industry partners. And then we can build out the Nurture platform even more to include many pet parent resources. So in the last few years, we've grown from 90,000 to over 800,000 pet profiles in the US. And we're on track to hit 2 million in revenue this year. And our current trailing 12 for subscription revenue alone is nearing $1 million. On the monetization front, we're looking at this in a bottom-up way. We know that we can get $40 annual revenue per subscribing pet. And we estimate that there's an additional $20 annual revenue opportunity from Share and $50 per pet from Nurture. All in, that's a nearly $7 billion opportunity for Pet Hub. Now, obviously, to achieve that $7 billion, we would need to have 100% market penetration and 100% attach rate from services. But if we dig down deeper, we believe that obtainable market will easily get us to over 8 million dogs on the site in the next few years, and there is a clear line of sight to hundreds of millions in revenue. Oops, behind on my slides. So as we continue to increase market penetration of all of our tag program channels, and as those Share and Nurture services really take hold, we see our revenue continuing to grow rapidly, and it's going to get us to nearly 40 million by 2025. In our next 2 years of growth will get us to profitability. So over the next 18 months, we will be growing our marketing and sales team to leverage our proven customer acquisition funnel. We'll be increasing our marketing outreach and expanding our existing technology platform to create more value for those subscriptions we have for pet parents. These efforts will get us to 2 million in pet profiles and over 5 million in annual recurring revenue. As far as competitive landscape, Pet Hub is in a unique position. Now, I know everybody says this, but our tags are an essential product, a required pet license or rabies tags that are distributed by trusted industry authorities. And as I showed earlier, our centralized hub of data gives us a very broad base to build service offerings upon. And most importantly, our system works seamlessly with existing licensing and rabies tag programs. We are simply replacing those old-fashioned ID tags with no other disruption. And our ability to work within existing systems and the partnerships that we've built with other service providers in the animal welfare industry makes switching to our tags a significant barrier to entry. Other barriers to entry are we're out front. First, we built a solid sales pipeline and reputation, and municipalities will only work with companies that are 5 years or older. We have reliable, scalable technology that's providing proven benefits to veterinarians, shelters, and other animal welfare organizations. And we have the perfect team to accomplish all of this. In addition to being named Pet Industry Woman of the Year, my connections in the industry are extensive. Tom Arnold, our co-founder and CTO, was founder of several tech startups with successful exits. And Morgan Woodward is a highly respected veteran in the animal welfare and government spaces. And we have an incredible advisory team, which includes really heavy hitters in the industry like Kristen Levine and Sue Cosby Jennings. We are super excited that we have built a company that not only drives revenue and provides valuable services, but also reunites families and saves lives. To date, we have reunited over 30,000 pets with their families. And with your help, we will have even more happy tales to tell. Thank you so much, and looking forward to answering some questions.
Terrific. Thanks, Lauren. Jason, can we just get a sound check before I disappear?
Check, check.
Sounds good. And there's your screen. Good. Okay, I'm going to start the timer and get out of the way. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Jason Bauman, and on behalf of our amazing due diligence team, thank you so much to James, Jeff, Mark, Sukanya, and Kevin for all of your hard work with Pet Hub. And thank you, Lorian, for making yourself and your team available. It's been a pleasure working with you through the process. During our month together, we learned a lot about your team, your product, your traction, and how your really unique pet tags help return lost pets to their homes. Some of the key findings are available up here on the screen. I'm not going to go through and read those. I want to get straight to the questions. You already indicated on your presentation there was this gap between the licensing tag market and the rabies tag market. 12 million and 50 million is what you just showed us. How are you going to increase your market penetration into that all-important rabies tag market?
It's a great question, and we're already have a head start there. So we're really focusing on some major channels within that rabies tag market. First and foremost, municipalities that have rabies tags, where the municipality purchases the rabies tags and then distributes them to veterinarians. We already have a nice foothold in several states there with multiple programs. And so that's opened the door for us to engage with other counties that are in those states. And it's providing a really great foundation as we begin that discussion with other states that we don't have that rabies tag footprint in. We estimate that that's at about a potential 20% or more of the available market, and we're already making great headway there. The next big channel in the rabies, market is corporate veterinarians. If we're talking about a handful, like less than a dozen companies that own a huge amount of clinics. And so we're negotiating opportunities right now with several of those corporations, and they're doing anywhere from 250,000 to 2 million tags annually. And we're already have opportunities that will be launching in 2024 that we're working on right now. And then finally, we're getting set up as a manufacturing vendors with all of the leading veterinary supply distributors. So we're set up with them. We've actually built a system, a portal for those folks to be able to go in and self-service purchase of tags. And I'm excited to say that we already have sales that are coming into that portal that have already started.
Awesome. And you talked about this open API for the share product.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of privacy concerns around data and things like that. What obstacles exist to customer adoption that you need to overcome to make that product successful?
Well, when you talk about customer adoption, we look at there's 3 different customers there. And so I'm going to talk about the 3 different customers. So there's the data integration partners. Those are companies that are actually approaching us. They're coming to us. They're paying us for integrations, and we're working on very specific data sharing projects. We have one that's actually launching this month with pet insurance companies. So then we have third-party app developers. Now, the side benefit and the icing on the cake to developing these direct integrations is that we've been building an API that now we're going to release as an open API that then third-party app developers can build pet products onto. Now, from the part of the pet parents, that might be the customer that you're concerned about as far as adoption, they're going to be benefiting from these data integrations. And of course, it's always an opt-in. They're going to be asked, hey, would you like to connect with XYZ pet insurance so that you can get this experience? So for example, with that pet insurance, what we're doing right now, on their pet dashboard, there will be a tile where they can click, and they'll be able to do single sign-on with that pet insurance company, purchase quality policies, update policies, so on and so forth. And it's actually an experience that consumers are already really familiar with on multiple other platforms. I mean, think about a mint.com when you're connecting your bank and your credit card and all these things and purchasing other products so that you can manage them all on mint.com. That's the same sort of experience that they'll have on Pet Hub.
Awesome. And then the big revenue pile looks like it might be mostly on the nurture side. What needs to happen in order for you guys to realize that revenue potential in the next few years?
Yeah, so 3 things. As I talked about in my presentation, we have to continue to grow and add onto that protect. That's our lead generation for everything else that comes in. So we're going to be taking more market share. We're going to be adding to our premium services. And part of how we're adding to our premium services is with what we are building with Nurture. So then also the share part, as we're building that's going to actually create that hub of a 2-way data share that will continue to feed what we're able to do on the personalization part. So that's the final big piece, right? We need to automate and scale all of these great things that we've pilot tested over the last 1.5 years with personalization and content curation and specialized offers so that we can put all of that together.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you, Lorian.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Lorian, really good job. All right.
Thank you.
So if you guys can both turn your cameras off, and now we'll bring up Team Violet. So Brandon, I'm going to guess Brandon has raised his hand. Yes, he has. I'm going to bring Brandon up. And let's see. So Mindy, why don't you? Yep. Mindy, why don't you raise your? I'm sorry, Lydia, you have raised your hand. I'm sorry. So Lydia, I'm going to bring you up as well, and just mute yourself. Brandon, can we get a sound check and a screen share?
Yeah. Sound check.
Sounds good.
And the share is something I'm working on right now. Give me a second here. Does that look okay?
No. Can you just share your presentation screen?
Yeah. That's what I'm trying
Is
to
it a
qualify.
tab in your browser? Maybe you just need to make that tab show up.
Try this again. There we go. We'll up front. That better?
That looks great. All right, I'm going to start the timer and get out of the way.
All right. Thank you. I'm Brandon Doyle, CEO of Violet. We formed a company to prevent transmission of all airborne pathogens in indoor spaces. So in this era of COVID-19, when you have a lot of options out there for air purification, but the reality is none of them are in the conversation, means masks and social distancing. There's not a technology solution as that fourth pillar to combat the spread of airborne germs. HEPA filters are the current best solution, and they have been for a long time. But the reality is those filters actually require multiple, sometimes many times flowing air through the filter for it to actually get the results you need. UVC is a technology that's been proven over a number of years to kill all pathogens on Earth, but it has a large disclaimer that it requires a significant amount of time for that UVC light to be impacting that air and the pathogens within that air for it to work properly. So UVC light as currently used in products is actually not very effective and only a marketing gimmick as currently used. If you look at the best products in the world, FDA Class 2 medical devices, they actually have a low bar to cross. So they give 5 hours for a product to clear a small room of pathogens. And when we all intuitively think about that, that's not enough to prevent me getting somebody sick if we're sharing a room together and I have a disease. So that's what Violet addressed with our product. We're not just another UVC company. We have a product that can allow for a 50x air residence time increase inside of our product. How we do that is we have a specific design that pulls air into our inner chamber and it circulates it in this vortex airflow. And it allows for the air to reside in this high intensity UVC light field with highly reflective, near 100% reflective materials. And we call it's effectively a light bomb going off in there inside of our device. And it's going to kill all germs that are in that air in a single pass through our device. That's SARS-CoV-2, and that's anything that has ever existed on Earth is going to be killed in that single pass through the unit. We have we're working with Colorado State University has tested and validated that our technology kills SARS-CoV-2, and we have a unit currently at Aerosol Labs that's testing against viruses aerosolized in a space to show how quickly we can remove all pathogens from the air using our technology. So we've launched with a portable air disinfector. Looks to a lot of different air purifiers, and we have the HEPA pre-filter, so we can do what everybody else can do. We can pull out large particles, dust, pollen, smoke, pet odors. All that's handled by the filter and handled pretty well. And everything that makes it through, which is going to be the small airborne viruses, they're going to be killed in our inner UVC chamber, and it's clean air coming out the top. We have a testing partner in Intertech Labs, and they have already completed testing to validate that our all UVC lights fully enclosed within our device. No ozone produced by our technology either. So it's safe to use inches from people, pets, children, which is a big benefit with the UVC technology we're using. And we have a patent pending technology submitting our full utility patent over the next month. What our technology can do is we can process an 800 square foot room, and we can fully disinfect that room in 15 minutes using our single pass that our technology provides. So we're going to grow into a commercial suite of products. We launched with a portable unit because it was the most flexible way to package this and get it out to the places that need it most during this pandemic. We're very excited to work our way into commercial solutions, and we plan to do that over the next couple of years as we prove our technology in our portable unit. An integrated HVAC unit, an overhead recessed light solution, as well as working our way into transportation, where this can easily work its way into buses, trains, and subways. So we do have a software aspect as well, where most of the way through a mobile app development, we have an Internet of Things connected controller that sends data to the cloud and can send directly to a user's app, and embedded sensors that can to those users. And we're also building in administrative control into that app, such that if you have a hospital or if you have a nursing home, you have an administrator that can set a cleaning cycle on multiple, up to many devices with one click of their app, as opposed to doing single for each one of the units that they have under their control. This is a large market and growing fairly quickly. $29 billion global market, $8 billion in North America, and what we're targeting is healthcare, specifically outpatient health, elder care facilities, and growing into hospitals, and that's the $2 billion share of that market. We've launched B2B into that healthcare market that I just talked about, and we've used associations for lead generation up front, and so associations have vetted our technology and our company and allowed us to pitch out to a large number of their members, and it's led to a number of our initial paid pilots that we're operating right now. We're going to continue to grow with this model, and one of the great benefits of launching into elder care, which is a place that's very well educated in the needs, and they're obviously very vulnerable, and they have a population that really needs this technology. They're also very networked. So as we grow and add communities into as customers, we're targeting ones that are networked across the United States. And one community in Washington, for example, can be under the same organization as 400 communities across the United States. And we plan to continue to grow in that way. And then in the later years, years 3, 4, and 5, we're going to utilize strategic partnerships, especially for our commercial solutions. We've already started some of those discussions. For example, we're in discussion with one of the leading air purification companies. Technology matches up well with some of their future product offerings. So even for our portable solution, looking at strategic partnerships up front. Our competition is represented in classes. Honeywell is representing the basic filter. They're not very effective and not very expensive as well. You have Dyson as an example. They're just a filtering company, but they have a more expensive design, so the effectiveness is still not there. Companies like Molecule and Blue Air, what they provide is a little bit more than just a filter, so electrostatic and photochemical process, but it's really not doing much more than a filter when you look at independent testing. Then you have companies that pump chemicals out into the air, and they cost a decent amount more, and there's also companies that technology, but this gets really expensive. So for example, Naveris, it's $15,000 for a single unit, and I'll share this momentarily, but we can do that for 1/15 of the price and better results at Violet. So our team, I'm a career engineer and technologist, and I have years of experience with you and commercializing products. Our COO is a PhD in molecular biology, and she's worked in numerous healthcare startups in product development and testing. Our Nisi Hilton, our sales lead, she has 20 years experience selling and partnering with elder care facilities and healthcare facilities, and has been integral in our initial traction that we have. And then we have a director of manufacturing with 15 years experience in manufacturing at Intel and project management. So we're really. So our unit economics, we're selling our unit for $1,000 and of 60% based on what we can produce it for. And then every 6 months, we have a recurring revenue of $250. The emitters that are recurring revenue. And what I projected product line, like I described earlier, and that's what's I'm getting to 150 million in revenue by year 5. So our initial traction, we've sold 60 of these units to 4 customers. 3 of those are elder care facilities, nursing homes, assisted living homes, and one with the University of Washington looking at the education space. We have a pipeline of 400 elder care facilities in Washington State that we can grow nationally from. We have 250 units worth of LOIs worth $375,000. And we've shipped units to both Intertech labs and aerosol labs for third-party testing that are in progress right now. We've completed a pre-seed funding round that allowed us to launch, and we have a pretty well-established and wide-ranging provisional patent that's going to allow us to grow into a patent portfolio for this technology. Currently, and we're working out of the UW CoMotion hardware incubator space. So we're building the future of air disinfection. We're going to raise some money, and we're going to deploy funds to scale our manufacturing capabilities. We're going to hire staff to grow our engineering and our operations to support the sales demand. We're going to further develop our brand and marketing materials and finish our app. And I'm really excited to answer some questions and talk more with you.
Great. Thank you, Brandon. Good job. Lydia. Lydia,
Yes.
Sound check?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes, you sound great. And screen share?
Yep. Starting that right now. Is that coming up?
Yep, there it is.
Perfect.
All right, I will
So-
let me set the timer for you,
Great.
and I'll get out of the way.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lydia Frank, and I've had the pleasure of being the lead for the Violet due diligence team. Call out really quickly our additional team members, Glenn, John, Greg, and Ali. So thank you all for helping in this process. I want to make sure, Brandon, that you have plenty of time to kind of answer these remaining questions that we had that we've discussed a little bit already. But I did also want to call out kind of the positives that we saw during our due diligence process. So I won't read all these out to you, but I'll hit the highlights here. So the things that really stood out to us during the due diligence process was a strong IP and competitive differentiation. There's a provisional patent in place for the IP that Violet has, creates a good competitive moat, as Brandon spoke to. There's a really strong team in place with deep expertise and broad expertise, as you saw in the presentation. There's also a really great set of advisors that Violet has behind them as well for kind of areas where they need some deeper expertise. There's a potential for a rapid exit here. So we've talked a lot about the potential for them to license their IP to strategic partners, and a strategic partner being somebody that could ultimately be their exit. There's been good early traction and a really solid go-to-market strategy. So Brandon had called out there's paid pilots in place that are representing 60 units that are invoiceable right now, with LOIs for 250 more units, many from those same paid pilots, which is essentially people saying, if the paid pilot works out, we're ready to buy more. One of the customers we spoke with said, I would buy 160 more units tomorrow if this all goes well. So, really a lot of excitement on the customer side. In terms of the market, it's a big market, even just focusing on elder care. And then plus, there's incredible potential to go beyond elder care, direct to consumer, or other markets for B2B. The product market fit, again, I think is really strong, as, customer are clearly seeing the value early on. And then, there's really solid unit economics. As Brandon called out, there's 60% margin, there's ongoing recurring revenue potential, lots of great things that we saw there. In terms of lifetime value to CAC ratio too is like 7-to-1, which, being in marketing myself, 3-to-1, you're feeling pretty good about. 7-to-1 is pretty incredible. So, that's great to see too. Our remaining questions were around these 4 areas, and I want to give you some time to speak to this, Brandon. Manufacturing, first of all, can you talk a little bit about just ramp time for manufacturing and how that lines up with sales projections?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are doing, small batch in-house manufacturing currently, and we're simultaneously paving the path to scale manufacturing with local partners. We're doing that and transitioning all of our designs to be for injection molding, and that's actually just completing now. And then the next phase is finding our having discussions with our manufacturing partners that we were targeting, and then selecting our best choice based on the quotes that we get. And so our sales projections that we have, we essentially cross that level where it's above what we can produce in-house in about April of next year. And that timeline matches the timeline of us establishing these relationships with manufacturing partners as we maintain this sprint to go get to scale manufacturability.
Great. And let's talk a little bit about testing. You mentioned that you have some testing going on. We had asked a little bit about, how do we get to peer-reviewed testing in more real-world conditions? Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the beauties of what we're doing with our technology is we're using light, which has been around for 100 years, and it's actually been tested on every pathogen on Earth. And so it's already been established what UVC dose it takes to go kill pathogens. And we already know what dose we can provide. And so we have this really good idea through our simulations and all the data that exists, what we could do. And that's what we're basing a lot of this on, is very well-established data. But we also realize that we need those third-party results to support that above and beyond. And so that's why we partnered with Colorado State University. And that's a study that will produce peer reviewable results, especially when we go after our transmission study, which is our next step with them.
All right.
Aerosol Labs is
Thank you very much, Brandon. That was a great job. Thank you for making the world a cleaner place. And Lydia, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
If you guys could both turn your cameras off, that'd be great. And
Thank you so much.
next up, so Caitlin, I'm going to bring Caitlin up. Let's see. There we go. Let's see. Can I just get rid of that? Oh, there we go. Okay, good. All right. So Caitlin, I'm bringing you up now. And Rachel, can you raise your hand? I'm going to bring you up right now as well. Thank you. All right. Welcome, Caitlin.
Thank you.
Can we get a sound check and a screen share? And Rachel, can I get a sound check from you as well?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Great.
And all right. So I'm going to reset the timer. So Rachel, if you can at least mute your microphone, that'd be great.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And I will start the timer and get out the way.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Morse, CEO and co-founder of BrainSpace. Did you know that your brain floats inside your skull? Your spinal cord and brain are protected by a translucent, colorless saline called cerebral spinal fluid. It's what's shown here in blue. This fluid also acts as a shock absorber and washes away toxins. So say you were to injure your ankle, you would see it swell with excess fluid. With a brain or spine injury, the body's also sending this fluid, but your skull or spine is made of bone, and so it doesn't expand the way your skin does. That means that the fluid quickly creates increased pressure, which then restricts blood flow and oxygen and destroys brain tissue, leaving you with long-term disability or death. While this can be caused by a traumatic brain injury, it can also be the result of extra blood with a stroke, too much cerebral spinal fluid in a disease like hydrocephalus, or the extra tissue of a brain tumor. Skull base and spine surgeries can also cause pressure-related complications. For centuries, doctors have been draining fluid to give your brain space to swell inside the skull to avoid this damage or paralysis. Unfortunately, top hospitals today are still using the same approach developed in 1927, which requires constant nursing attention because drainage depends on a string level aligned to the patient's ear for manual recalibration every time the patient moves to avoid deadly outcomes. This makes it labor intensive and high risk, meaning that patients with a brain or spine drain are in the ICU. So what if I told you that for the same price hospitals are already paying, we could solve all of this and still deliver a 90% gross margin? BrainSpace has developed a solution that is safer for patients, simpler for nurses, and builds the data that neurologists, neurosurgeons, and neurointensivists need to care for their patients today and advance our understanding of the brain for tomorrow's breakthroughs. And we do all that for the same cost hospitals are already spending. So right now, ICUs are connecting that string level drain to a blood pressure monitor, and then once an hour, manually switching back and forth between the two systems, recording a value manually, and then making manual adjustments. BrainSpace is replacing all of that with a system that still uses the gravity-based approach that clinicians trust, while adding improved patient safety, personalized care, and clean data. And with multiple major players, there are clear opportunities for M&A. There are 3 broad categories of neuropatients that benefit from our system, and today they're all found in the hospital ICU. In the US, they represent an $890 million service addressable market. The first category is trauma patients that come in through the ER. The second is dementia patients who may have a condition called neural pressure hydrocephalus. These patients undergo 72 hours of slow drainage to test if their condition is treatable. And the third category is patients recovering from surgery where pressure can get in the way of healing. So for a majority of these neuro patients, a spine drain is the only reason that they need to be in the ICU. Do you remember at the start of COVID when all the elective surgeries were canceled? Even things like cancer biopsies that really don't feel elective? Well, that was in part because surgical complications take up ICU beds. A hospital can't do a major surgery if they don't have an available ICU bed in case the patient needs it. My grandpa went in for a simple gallbladder surgery at the age of 60 and ended up spending 2 weeks in the ICU fighting for his life. ICU bed availability impacts the hospital bottom line. So moving an average of 250 patients a year out of each hospital ICU is over $1 million saved per hospital. BrainSpace also offers improved quality with fewer opportunities for human error in the management of the system, the collection of the data, fewer on-call interruptions, and less stress on specialized nurses. All of this means less burnout and more staffing flexibility, especially important now. And of course, the improved quality of life for patients and their families, if they're not spending the next 30 years with severe brain damage and disability, cannot be overstated. So why now? Well, first of all, last year, key components went from the size of a soda can down to smaller than a dime. That, combined with my co-founder's expertise in designing cost-efficient products, means that we can achieve the 90% gross margin that is appealing to investors and acquirers and gives us a non-dilutive source to grow our R&D pipeline. Secondly, we're seeing a growing demand driven by the aging population. So not only are more patients seeking neurocare, but neurosurgeons and neuronurses are retiring at a faster rate than replacements can be trained. And finally, we're seeing a significant increase in virtual collaboration between specialists. During COVID, telestroke networks were expanded to cover a broader range of neurocare, and more clinicians started advising their colleagues virtually for the first time, within the same hospital, across departments, within a network of hospitals, and even in place of flying on medical missions around the world. Not only is now the right time, but we're the right team. As CEO, I bring business leadership and product expertise. I previously led a team of experts at a Fortune 500 manufacturer where we were assessing over 200 medical devices a year, from first prototype to high volume production, and even providing M&A support. Prior to BrainSpace, I consulted with venture-backed startups, supporting CEOs and boards in prioritizing their activities, translating between clinical users and engineering, modeling unit economics, and developing initial go-to-market strategies. My co-founder, Stephen Morse, brings deep mechanical design expertise, broad experience in complex systems, and strong technical leadership. Stephen has developed medical devices from early R&D through compliance testing and FDA clearance, launch, and scaling into production. Stephen is named on more than 6 patents and was employee 12 at Pathway, a local medical device startup that grew to over 200 before being acquired by Bayer. The surgical system they developed is still on market 10 years later and remains a favorite among surgeons. As the technology leader for BrainSpace, Stephen has successfully designed and fabricated both the hardware and software for our functional prototypes. Stephen and I have complementary skill sets, and this is our 3rd company working together. We've also recruited strategic advisors that represent our 3 key stakeholder groups. Barry Seisler is a neurointensivist leading the ICU and caring for neuro patients. Barry has 12 years experience in top academic centers such as Columbia and NYU Langone, and is now working in the Providence network of hospitals. Barry was also involved in purchasing decisions at NYU and is providing valuable input on the user needs and value proposition. Millie Hepburn has her PhD in ICU nursing and has spent the last 10 years as a neuronurse educator, training the nurses on the devices that BrainSpace is replacing. Millie is a former board member of the American Association of Neuroscience Nursing and has leveraged her network to conduct a survey for our future customers. She's publishing those results and highlighting the problems with the existing options ahead of our launch. We're also in discussions with 6 neurosurgeons and we'll be bringing one on board in the next month. We also have been brought into the Life Science Washington Institute and have a team of former founders and other investors that are collaborating with us as part of our mentorship. So the neurointensivist, the neuro-ICU, and the neurosurgeon are key to driving adoption as champions. We've developed a unique value proposition for each of these stakeholders that aligns with their professional and personal priorities. There are 25 top-ranked hospitals with neuro-ICUs that define really the best practice for the industry. We aim to be in 5 in our first year, and in our second year, we'll expand across the 114 hospitals with neuro-ICUs with a goal of being in 20. Beyond that, our published data, our happy customers, and our low friction price point will help us go after the 2,800 hospitals across the US that have an ICU, as well as starting to look at other geographies. We've been moving quickly in our first year. We formed BrainSpace in January with a proof of concept prototype, made quick progress to develop a works like, looks like prototype. We've now been seeing great traction putting that functioning device into the hands of clinical users and getting their feedback on our solution. We've also engaged a broader section of clinicians to make sure that we really understand the problem, the clinical workflow, and where their problem ranks in their priorities. And we've done all of this with less than 100K. So beyond our first device, we also have a portfolio of patent pending products leveraging our core technology, giving us a strong competitive moat and an exciting future. Our first patent covers 2 additional product lines, blood pressure and abdominal pressure. Both of these are essential for ICU patients and allow us to sell more to our same customers. Our second patent filed last week supports the integration of biosensors and leverages our product expertise to expedite lab discoveries in brain disease to more quickly benefit patients. Both also allow us to build valuable annotated data sets that are needed to power the next generation of machine learning-based diagnostics and therapies. We intend to grow rapidly once we hit market, and we aim to have $120 million in revenue by year 5 across our first 2 products, representing 3% of the expanded $4.8 billion market. We are also intentionally capital efficient so that we are able to maintain exit options along the way that are a good return for all of us. So there are 4 inflection points where we see a valuable exit as most likely, the first being a year from now, and then growing in value as our revenue and market position increase. Our strong IP portfolio and our 90% gross margin also help us maximize a multiple upon exit. So winning SAC would allow us to pursue market, product, and FDA-related activities that would reduce our risk and increase the value of BrainSpace in the short term.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Caitlin. That was so great. My name is Rachel Croft, and I have the pleasure of being the due diligence lead for the BrainSpace team, this SAC. And I first want to just thank my due diligence team for all their hard work over the last month. It was quite bonding, and it was great. We really enjoyed working with the BrainSpace team and Caitlin in particular. So yeah, pleasure working with you for sure. I wanted to call out before we go into our few questions, just some high level learnings that what we got from the process. So one was that we learned that BrainSpace is tackling a huge market, 4.8 billion, with the potential of not just serving neurocritical care patients in the ICU, but also so many other patient segments that are needing things like abdominal pressure monitoring, and so forth. And the BrainSpace team has deep expertise in successfully devices to market, very impressive experience. And lastly, developed, of course, a unique novel solution that is very needed in the market and has gained traction through bringing on advisors and the filing of 2 patents. So with all that great learning that we had, I wanted to start by asking you what personally motivates you to solve this problem and create the solution.
Yeah, so in the interest of time, I won't name all of the different factors, but in a professional context, I've worked alongside a lot of medical device companies who didn't have enough of a business plan to really survive. And so for us, the business opportunity was a big factor. But there were also some personal motivations. So in my case, I had a childhood friend whose mom really ended up becoming a second mom to me as a young adult. And in her early 50s, she had early onset dementia. And that was pretty devastating for everyone involved. So attending her daughter's wedding, meeting her grandchild, and she didn't even know who any of them were. And so when I saw this idea that 2 million families across the US had a loved one with a form of dementia that was potentially curable, but they weren't getting the treatment they needed because it couldn't be diagnosed consistently, that was hugely compelling to me, the idea of being able to give those families their loved one back. And just to give you a context, there was a woman who was recently telling her mom's story. And when symptoms first started appearing, she went for spinal fusion surgery, and that didn't help. And then a few years later, she was told to do a uterine mesh surgery for bladder control, and that didn't help. And it was 10 years before she happened to be visiting a friend who introduced her to a clinic where this diagnosis could take place. And she's now been 3 years back with her family, being able to interact with them, with getting her full function back. And that's completely unacceptable from my perspective, that we have an inequitable, wasteful situation that is solvable. And so we're going to solve it.
Great, thank you. Next, we'd like to hear what has your progress been over SAC?
Yeah, so when you guys first said, okay, we want a week by week update, I will admit, I was a little bit nervous because I was thinking to myself, okay, are we really going to make enough progress every single week to have things to talk about? But I actually love the fact we had to provide these weekly updates, because it really made us realize how much we were doing. Sometimes in the early days, you don't spend enough time celebrating the wins. So in September, we filed our full non-provisional patent on our first patent. And just last week, we filed our second one. So we had 2 patent activities during SAC. Our customer interviews, Rachel and team really pushed us to document it and quantify. We had lots of notes from those discussions, but how many people have you talked to, and what is that looking like? And that's that little graph you can see here between the time we started and the time we finished SAC, really getting to talk to a large number of people. In terms of when we started SAC, we had 1 device. We now have 3 consoles and about 15 disposables. And in terms of the advisors that we recruited, Barry was an advisor that we recruited during the SAC process. We also made progress on our quality management system and some of the analysis we need to do for the FDA. And then we've also been able to bring on some investors, including 2 today, actually. So we've had 100K come in today. And then also being able to use some of what we developed for diligence for SAC for some of the other investors that we've been talking to.
Wonderful. Yeah, you guys have been busy. What would winning SAC mean for you and BrainSpace, of course?
Yeah, so this has been, we have a very, very brief moment to say this, but we really have clear opportunities in market, product, and reducing risk around the FDA that we can get to actually a first in human with that money. So it would make a big difference in both the valuation of the company and the progress we can make towards getting this to patients.
Fantastic.
Great. Well done, Caitlin. Rachel, thanks so much. So if you guys could both turn off your cameras and screen shares, that would be terrific. And now the last team we'll bring up, Stephen and Mindy. Can you guys raise your hands? Let's see. Perfect. Thank you. Bring you both up. All right, great. Mindy, can I get a quick sound check?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, you sound great. And Stephen, sound check.
Sound check.
Nice.
I can do a screen share as well. Give me a second here.
So Mindy, you can mute your microphone now.
Okay.
And then come back on when we're done.
Well, let's hope I don't have computer issues now.
Yeah, no, that looks good. Are you ready to go?
Give me 1 second. I'm trying to expand the screen here.
Sure.
All right, I'm ready to go. Ready to rock.
All right, take it away.
We are at a pivotal time in the history of capitalism. Companies that were previously valued based on financial metrics are now valued based on financial and ESG metrics. This shift is a result of pressure investment groups like BlackRock, PIMCO, Vanguard are putting on companies to make and meet ESG commitments. As companies rethink how they do business, a massive opportunity has emerged in the climate tech world. And the slide is supposed to change. There it goes. Okay. Technical problems here. There you go. In response to these demands, boards are holding executives accountable, Apple, for instance, announced that executives' bonuses are tied to ESG performance, and this is just one example. Executives are reacting by making aggressive commitments. At least 1/5 of the world's largest companies have made net zero commitments. But internally, companies are scrambling to hire sustainability leaders and find solutions. Companies have to rethink every aspect of their business to meet these commitments. Can a single department that is relatively new actually do this? Paul Pullman, the former CEO of Unilever, has a great quote. The key to creating a vibrant and sustainable company is to find ways to get all employees, from top executives to assembly line workers, personally engaged in day-to-day corporate sustainability efforts. Sustainability departments have to be woven into the fabric of their workforce. Innovative companies like Microsoft, Intuit, Boeing, and DaVita have spent significant resources trying to build these systems internally. Many other companies want to bring their employees along on this journey, but there's no easy way and it's quite manual. We've built a platform that makes it easy for companies to get their employees personally engaged in their corporate sustainability initiatives without having to build their own systems internally. Hi, my name is Stephen Babe. I'm the CEO and co-founder of EarthUp. Companies that are able to surface insights from their employees increase the capacity of their sustainability teams and have a competitive advantage in meeting their ESG commitments. A little over a decade ago, my interest in the energy revolution began when I was abroad. When I got home, I partnered with the local utility and started doing outreach and completing home energy assessments. I've personally been in over 1,000 homes, including homes from Microsoft, Amazon, Boeing, Google, and Facebook employees. I know their problems, I know how to solve their problems, and I know how to motivate them. I scaled that company to completing hundreds of assessments each week, and we completed over 30,000 in-home energy assessments. I realized the growth limitations with an in-person service, and that is why we launched a SaaS company to solve this problem. We are at the beginning of this transition. 17% of the Fortune 500 companies, representing about have made carbon commitments, and 20% of the global 500 companies, representing around 13 million employees, have made net zero commitments, and these commitments are growing fast. Companies that integrate sustainability into every employee's job will surface insights quicker and execute faster on these commitments. If you look into the future, all companies will be looking for ways to get employees to participate in their corporate sustainability initiatives. Companies are going to have to partner with their employees. And companies that have already made these climate commitments and report their ESG metrics to the government now have a compliance obligation. And generally, the CFO owns compliance and therefore is motivated to understand and track what they're doing. One striking finding was that 68% of CFOs believe the responsibility for their company's ESG performance falls on their shoulders. And those CFOs are scrambling to hire sustainability leaders and find easy wins. When we are selling our solution to companies, we're not trying to teach them something new. We're selling them something that they already know how to buy. Companies use SaaS platforms as a force multiplier, and that's exactly what we do. CFOs are looking to increase the capacity of their sustainability teams while de-risking their sustainability hires. That's where EarthUp comes in. EarthUp provides an interface for companies to see, understand, and easily report employee environmental and social metrics. We identify ways companies can help their employees be sustainable in the area that is most personal to them, their homes. There's also an employee interface that educates, motivates, and drives action from employees, making it easy for companies to engage, surface insights, and weave sustainability into the fabric of their workforces. An important thing to mention is that employees want solutions like ours. Nearly 9 out of 10, or 86% of millennials, are willing to take a pay cut to work for a company whose mission aligns with their personal values. When companies report their emissions, they generally pay a third-party company to perform a materiality assessment. These materiality assessments start by identifying where emissions are to be reported: Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3. Scope 1 is the combustion burning natural gas on-premise fleet vehicles. Scope 2 is the electricity used. And Scope 3 is literally everything else, including employees' work from home. As employees move into a hybrid or a work from home world, companies need to highlight employees as a way to strengthen their commitment to all scopes. Scope 4 allows companies to strengthen that commitment to Scope 1 and 2 and 3 by baselining employees' footprints outside of the office and identifying levers to make sustainability personal to their employees. Earthmark has trademarked Scope 4 as well. How the whole process works. Companies create an account and enroll their employees to their product. This is done from a top-down and a bottom-up approach where managers and executives send it out to employees, but employees also share the excitement with other coworkers. At this point, companies have a materiality assessment of their employees' environmental and social values, along with their footprint outside the office. Now companies can have a strategy for actually learning how to engage and motivate their workforce, and we highlight a plan and make it easy as a click of a button to do that. Companies then can easily report their ESG metrics to both the CFO, and the CFO can report it to their board, which allows them to access more capital. Customers in our trial phase have over 140,000 employees, and they have told us that their employees are asking for solutions like EarthUp. We are really excited to be in budget conversations with 3 of the 4 tier 1 customers that we've identified on this, and we expect to have our first enterprise paying customer by the end of the year. One of our customers, here's a great quote from one of the VPs of sustainability for Interface, Lisa Conway. We love how EarthUp increases the capacity of our sustainability team by making it easy for us to provide resources to our employees, track the impact of action, and surface insights into how Interface can be more sustainable. It helps us get our employees personally engaged in Interface's corporate sustainability efforts. One of the other things that we're doing to really get to know and understand our customers, both in the trial phase and in the pipeline, is we have a call called Employees in ESG. And this is a bi-weekly call where companies come into a safe space to really learn about best practices and talk with one another on how to solve this problem. We do run that, but it's really great to see that we're not the one leading the conversation. We organize the conversation, but these companies really surface a lot of insights for us and solve each other's problems. And this is a great way for us to learn what product features to implement, but also in the sales process, it's a very soft ask for us to say, hey, before you jump into a trial, if you're interested, you can join this call. And it's worked very, very well. Companies that are also in our pipeline represent over 340,000 employees. And that's about the amount that is on these employees and ESG calls that we have bi-weekly. And that pipeline is growing fast with our recent launch last week. Well, how do we sell? Our first goal is to close existing trial customers. Like I said, we can exceed our goal, 2023 financial goals, by doing that. Climeco is a strategic investor, and they have begun to introduce us to their Fortune 500 clients, and they sell environmental commodities to 50% of the Fortune 500. And since our recent launch last week, they have plans to accelerate that. The other thing is we have to filter customers we are filtering customers and focusing our energy on tier 1 customers. And I can dive into, in a separate conversation, I can dive into exactly how we do that. We've also begun to market Scope 4, and this is actually how FIS Global found us and jumped into a trial within 10 days. And we also sell to sustainability teams currently. Down the road, there's a variety of different strategies. I mentioned a materiality assessment previously. We really see an opportunity to build a reseller network through that. And we're starting to market to CFOs as well. We can hit our 2-year forecast by closing all existing customers that are in our trial right now. And we are discussing, like I said, 2022 budgets of 3 out of those 4. This is a highly valuable SaaS company, even if we only get 3% of the Fortune 500 companies. And we strongly believe that the small to mid-sized market will open up in the next few years. Our current target customers are large companies, as I defined in the last slide, but we have a SaaS platform that lets companies self-sign up. We launched last week with a fully automated process, and we've had 5 companies sign up since then. We have a very strong team that consists of data scientists, storytellers. Whoa, I'm having some technical difficulties here.
All right. So, Steve, I'm afraid we're going to have to stop you there. But I'm sure Mindy will have a great conversation for you to make up for that. All right. Mindy, do you have a screen share?
I do. All right. Does that work?
I can't see it yet.
Okay.
There we go. Although,
There we go.
there you go. Okay, great.
All
You are
right.
up. Let me set the timer for you, and you're ready to go.
Okay, great. So I was so honored to have the opportunity to lead the due diligence team for the Earth Up company. And we had a great team, including Megan and Jessica, Abby, Shawwal, Robert, and Jim and Kate. Everybody worked really hard to gather information about this exciting company. You can't read the news, you can't read anything at Wall Street Journal, New York Times, whatever, without something about ESG, and all the investors are talking about it. So we wanted to understand a little bit more about how this company was going to meet this need. We've done a tremendous amount of research on that. We've learned that the Fortune 500 companies must address ESG in order to remain relevant with the investors. They demand that these companies work with that. The team, they're experienced and enthusiastic. And the customers in trial, I actually talked to one. He was incredibly enthusiastic. And they are, as Stephen said in his speech, they're beginning to add Earth Up as an expense in their 2022 budget, which means they do plan to close a deal. The competition, there's only a few companies in the ESG space focusing on scope 4. There are others focusing on scope 1 through 3, but Earth Up does have an early entrance into scope 4. And not only does scope 4 deal with ESG, but it also deals with employee retention and engagement. And the customer I spoke with was very thrilled with that aspect. So, Stephen, let me ask you a few questions here. And what has been the feedback you've gotten from the current trial customers, and just dive in a little bit more about those conversations you've had with them about the conversion from trial to contract?
We've learned a ton from our customers. Like I briefly mentioned, we have an employees and ESG call bi-weekly, and sustainability leaders on that call represent over 300,000 employees. And what companies right now are really trying to figure out how to solve this problem. And some of the feedback that we've got, the term increased capacity is actually something our customers used. It's not something that we came up with. They said that our platform helps increase their capacity, which was, something that we had to put into our pitch after that. But they know that this is a problem that they need to solve. This is something they know that right now, a lot of the solutions out there are a top-down solution, identifying how do you measure, how do you identify where emissions are coming from? But there's not a lot of solutions that let companies increase the capacity of their sustainability teams by engaging each employee. And that's what we've had. And we have another call, which we call the Earth Up Ambassadors call, where we talk with employees that are using the product. One of the big things that we hear from investors that, why would an employee want to do this? Well, employees are really looking for solutions on how to be more sustainable, and they trust their employer a lot of times. And so when a company provides a platform that allows employees to understand how they can be more sustainable, and then allows them to also participate in their company's sustainability mission, both sides love that relationship if it's done correctly.
Okay, great. So tell us a little bit about how you fund the development as a startup. It is expensive to have programmers work. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, before the technical difficulties with my delayed computer, I was going to show you the team. We have a really, really strong core team. We also have an investor called Tequity. And we knew that development's expensive. We knew in Seattle to hire a really good CTO is really hard. And Tequity allows us to punch above our weight because they're former executives from Apple, from Microsoft, from Amazon. And they are actually doing our engineering or helping us on the engineering right now. And the whole relationship with them is once we raise a seed round, which we're planning on doing Q1, Q2 of next year, then they help us hire and bring that team internal. So products on our side, engineering's on their side, and they have allowed us to really, like I said, punch above our weight and have people that we could not afford. We can't afford a $500,000 CTO or a $250,000 coder, right? They have those resources, and they're dedicating those resources through a combination of equity and cash.
Okay, great. And tell us a little bit about your initial investor and how they're helping you engage in Earth Up.
So in 20 seconds, we have Climeco. Climeco sells environmental commodities to 50% of the Fortune 500 customers. They've been an amazing partner for us. They don't dictate what they want us to do, and they've really said, how do you need support? And they've been able to support us. They are starting to drive Fortune 500 customers to us, and on December 1st, they're launching something making all their customers aware of our solution. All right,
great. Thank you so much, Stephen. Good job, and Mindy, thanks so much. So that's our final presentation. If you guys could both stop your sharing and close your camera. So that concludes all the pitches. So I hope everybody was taking notes on questions you have for the teams in the breakout sessions that will be coming. That's a great opportunity for you to go meet and talk with, engage, ask questions of the teams. In a moment, the investors will depart and they'll go to a super secret link, a Zoom link, and they'll deliberate.